The morning sky turned dark with ships. Jake Morrison looked up from his desk at the military base. His coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. The screens on the wall showed hundreds of objects entering the atmosphere. They were not meteors. They were not planes. They were something else entirely. Amy Chen ran into the command room. Her face was pale. She had been tracking these objects for 3 days. At first, everyone thought it was a mistake. The computers must be wrong. But the objects kept coming closer. Now they were here. The ships were beautiful in a terrible way. They were black like the space between stars. Their surfaces were smooth and perfect. No windows. No visible engines. They just floated down through the clouds as if gravity meant nothing to them. 6 large ships landed in an empty field in Colorado. The ground shook when they touched down. Helen Carter arrived at the base an hour later. She was a scientist who studied the possibility of alien life. For years, she had told people that aliens probably existed somewhere in the universe. Now she wished she had been wrong. The aliens had sent a message before landing. It was written in mathematics. The message was simple and cold. They were called the Zelthron Empire. They owned many worlds. Now they owned Earth too. Humans could surrender or die. Jake gathered his team in the command room. Military leaders from around the world appeared on video screens. Everyone was asking the same questions. Should they attack? Should they wait? Should they try to talk? Nobody knew what to do. This had never happened before. There were no plans for this. No training. No protocols. Helen studied the ships through cameras and sensors. She noticed something strange. The ships were not heavily armed. At least, not in ways that made sense to human military experts. There were no obvious weapons. No missile launchers. No gun turrets. Either the aliens were very confident or they had weapons that humans could not recognize. The waiting was the hardest part. The ship sat in the field for hours. Nothing moved. Nothing changed. Drones flew overhead, taking pictures and recordings. Satellites tracked every detail. The whole world watched and waited. News channels showed the ships from every angle. People argued about what it meant. Some said the aliens would destroy humanity. Others said they would enslave everyone. A few optimists hoped for peace. But the message had been clear. This was not a friendly visit. Then the doors opened. The first door on the lead ship made a sound like thunder. Smoke or steam poured out. Something moved inside. Everyone in the command room leaned closer to their screens. Soldiers in the field raised their weapons. Helicopters circled at a safe distance. The whole world held its breath. The alien warrior stepped out into the sunlight. It was enormous, nearly 8 feet tall. Its body was covered in what looked like natural armor. Thick plates overlapped across its chest and arms. It had 4 arms instead of 2. Each arm ended in a hand with 3 long fingers. Its skin was deep purple. Its eyes glowed with a soft blue light. The creature's head was large and angular. Its mouth was hidden behind a metal device that must have been a translator. The warrior wore very little equipment. Just some bands around its arms and legs. It carried weapons at its sides, but they looked ceremonial, decorative. This was clearly a soldier who did not need much protection. Its body was the weapon. Its strength was obvious in every movement. The warrior took 1 step forward. Its foot hit the ground with force. Then it took another step. Then a 3rd step. On the 4th step, something went wrong. The warrior's legs bent in the wrong direction. Its knees buckled. The massive creature fell forward onto the ground. It hit the earth hard. The sound carried across the field. Dust rose around its body. In the command room, everyone stared in silence. What just happened? Was this a trick, an attack? Jake looked at Helen. She looked at her computer screen, then back at the main display. Her eyes went wide with understanding. More warriors emerged from the ships. One after another, they came out into the open air. One after another, they fell. Some made it 5 or 6 steps. Some fell immediately. Their powerful bodies crashed to the ground. They tried to stand. They could not. Their arms pushed against the earth. Their legs shook with effort. But they could not lift themselves up. The mighty alien warriors lay in the dirt, helpless. More aliens came out, but these ones were different. They moved carefully, slowly. They were dragging equipment. They were trying to help the fallen warriors. But even these rescue teams moved like they were carrying enormous weights. Every step was a struggle. Every movement was slow and painful. They managed to drag some of the fallen warriors back toward the ships. but it took several of them to move just one body. Jake finally found his voice. What is happening? Are they under attack? Is this some kind of weapon? He looked around the room. Nobody had answers. Everyone was confused. This made no sense. The aliens had conquered dozens of worlds. They had traveled across space. They had technology beyond human understanding. And now they could not even stand up? Helen was working on her computer. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. She pulled up data about the alien ships, measurements, analysis, readings from sensors. She compared numbers. She checked and rechecked her calculations. Then she understood. It is gravity, she said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. She spoke louder. It is Earth's gravity. The aliens are built for low-gravity environments. Their homeworld must have much weaker gravity than Earth. Here they weigh too much. Their bodies cannot handle it. Earth's gravity is crushing them. The room was silent as everyone processed this information. The alien warriors were not being attacked. They were being defeated by the planet itself, by something so basic, so fundamental, that humans never even thought about it. Gravity was just part of life on Earth. Humans were born in it. They grew up in it. Their bodies were designed for it. But for the aliens, Earth's gravity was like being buried under rocks. Every moment on Earth was a crushing weight they could not escape. Amy pulled up more data. She showed readings from the alien ships. The ships had their own gravity systems inside. The gravity inside the ships was only 60% of Earth's normal gravity. The aliens lived and worked in low gravity. They had evolved in low gravity. Their bones were lighter. Their muscles were adapted for less weight. On their own worlds, they were powerful and fast. On Earth, they were helpless. Jake watched the screens. The aliens were retreating back into their ships. The doors were closing. The rescue teams had managed to pull most of the fallen warriors inside, but some still lay on the ground. Their bodies were not moving. Jake felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that Earth was not being invaded, confusion about what would happen next, and surprisingly concern for the aliens themselves. They had come as conquerors, but now they were victims of their own biology. "Get me the president," Jake said, "and get our medical teams ready. We need to understand what we are dealing with. We also need to decide if we are going to help them or not." Helen looked at him with surprise. "Help them? They came to conquer us." Jake nodded. "Yes, they did. But right now, they are just beings in trouble. We can decide what to do about the invasion later. First, we need to understand what is happening." The ships remained in the field as the sun set. Lights appeared on their surfaces. They glowed softly in the darkness. Around the world, humans tried to understand what they had witnessed. The fearsome alien invaders had been defeated before they could fire a single shot, not by weapons, not by armies, but by Earth itself, by the simple, unchangeable force of gravity. It was the strangest victory in human history, and nobody knew what would come next. The medical building at Peterson Air Force Base was never designed for aliens. Lisa Wong stood in the center of the large room and tried to imagine how to prepare for patients who were 8 feet tall with 4 arms. She had been a military doctor for 15 years. She had treated injuries from war zones around the world, but this was completely different. This was medicine without any handbook or guide. Kevin Torres had arrived that morning. He was a diplomat who specialized in difficult negotiations. He had worked in countries where nobody wanted peace. He had talked to leaders who refused to compromise. But talking to aliens was a new challenge. He sat in the briefing room with Lisa and her medical team. They were trying to understand what they were dealing with. "The aliens have been sending messages," Kevin explained. "They are not happy. They are embarrassed. In their culture, weakness is shameful. Failing in battle is the worst thing that can happen to a warrior. And they failed before the battle even started. They are talking about leaving Earth and never returning. Some of their leaders want to destroy the planet rather than admit defeat." Lisa felt cold fear run through her body. "Can they destroy Earth?" Kevin nodded slowly. "We think so. They have weapons on those ships that we cannot fully understand. If they decide that Earth is too dangerous to exist, they might try to eliminate the threat. We need to convince them that there is another option. We need to show them that asking for help is not the same as being weak." The first alien patient arrived that afternoon. His name was difficult to pronounce. The translator device gave it as Kraxithor. He was brought in on a special transport vehicle from the alien ships. Even inside the vehicle, he struggled. 4 of his fellow aliens helped him move. They wore mechanical suits that helped them walk in Earth's gravity. But Kraxthor wore nothing but his natural armor and some basic equipment. The warrior's pride was visible even in his weakened state. He refused to be carried. He insisted on walking. It took him 20 minutes to move from the transport to the medical bed. Every step was agony. His muscles shook. His breathing was heavy and labored. Sweat dripped from his purple skin, but he did not stop until he reached the bed. Only then did he allow himself to collapse onto it. Lisa approached carefully. She had scanners and sensors that could examine him without touching. She knew that touching might be seen as an insult or threat. "Kraxthor," she said through her own translator, "can you tell me about your homeworld? What is it like there?" The warrior's glowing eyes focused on her. "Why do you wish to know?" he asked. His voice was deep and rough. Lisa chose her words carefully. "Because I want to help you. But I need to understand how your body works. I need to know what is normal for you." Kraxthor was silent for a long moment. Then he began to speak. "Our world is called Zelthros. It is larger than your Earth but less dense. The gravity is weaker. On Zelthros I can jump 3 times my height. I can run faster than your fastest vehicles. I can lift weights that would require machines here. I am a warrior of the Empire. I have fought on 40 different worlds. I have never been defeated. Until now." The pain in his voice was clear. This was not physical pain, though Lisa's scanners showed that his body was under tremendous stress. This was emotional pain. The pain of humiliation. The pain of failure. Lisa looked at her scanner readings. His bone density was much lower than a human's. His muscle structure was efficient but not designed for heavy loads. His internal organs were being compressed by Earth's gravity. If he stayed here too long without help, he would die. "Your homeworld has 63% of Earth's gravity," Lisa said softly. "Here you weigh almost twice what you weigh at home. Your body is trying to support a weight it was never designed to carry. It is like asking a human to carry another full-grown human on their back every moment of every day. Eventually the body fails, not because it is weak, but because it is being asked to do something impossible." Kraxthor turned his head away. "The Empire has conquered worlds with poisonous air. We have taken planets where the heat could melt metal. We have fought battles in the vacuum of space. Never has the planet itself been our enemy. We chose worlds carefully. We always picked places where we could survive and fight. But Earth was marked in our surveys as a weak world. Low technology, no unified government, easy to conquer. Nobody told us about the gravity." Helen Carter entered the room. She had been studying the alien ships and learning everything she could about Zelthron biology. She brought datapads with information and charts. "May I speak?" she asked. Kraxthor nodded slightly. Helen stepped forward. "Your people have built an empire across many worlds. You have technology that we cannot match. But you have always chosen worlds with similar gravity to your own. You avoid high-gravity planets. This means you never had to adapt to them." The warrior's eyes focused on her. "What are you saying?" Helen continued. "I am saying that your empire only exists in parts of the galaxy where the gravity is low. There might be dozens of worlds like Earth, hundreds maybe. Worlds where the inhabitants are as helpless on your planets as you are on ours. The galaxy might be divided not by technology or weapons, but by something as simple as gravity. Different species adapted to different worlds. Neither superior, just different." Kraxthor processed this information. His translator made small clicking sounds as he thought. Finally he spoke. "If what you say is true, then the Empire has been living in ignorance. We thought we were the strongest beings in the galaxy. We thought no species could match our warriors, but we were only fighting other low-gravity species. We never encountered high-gravity beings because we avoided their worlds. We mistook the limits of our conquest for the limits of the possible." Daniel Price entered the room. He was a captain who had been coordinating communications with the alien fleet. He looked worried. The aliens in orbit are discussing their options. Some want to leave immediately. Others want to attack from space. They are arguing about honor and pride. They cannot agree on what to do. Their whole culture is built around military strength. This defeat has shaken them badly. Lisa looked at Kraxthor. "What would help your people understand? What would make this easier for them?" The warrior was quiet. Then he said something that surprised everyone. "Show them, humans. Show them what you can do on this world. The Empire needs to see that we were not defeated by weapons or tricks. We were defeated by nature, by evolution, By the simple fact that your species was born here and ours was not, Kevin understood immediately. You want us to demonstrate that Earth's gravity is normal for us, that what is impossible for you is easy for us. Craxthor nodded. Yes. My people respect strength. They respect capability. If they see humans moving easily in this crushing gravity, they will understand. They will see that Earth is not a weak world with lucky defenses. It is a strong world that breeds strong beings. That is something the Empire can respect. Jake Morrison had been listening from the doorway. He stepped into the room. We can do that. We can show your people what humans are capable of. But I need to know something first. If we do this, if we demonstrate our strength, what happens next? Does the Empire attack from space? Do they try to destroy us because we are too dangerous to leave alive? Craxthor struggled to sit up. Lisa helped him, adjusting the bed so he could be more upright without straining. The warrior looked at Jake with his glowing eyes. I cannot speak for the Empire. I am only a warrior, but I can tell you this. The Empire respects strength when it is proven. If humans show that they belong to this world, that Earth is their domain, the Empire will not attack. They will withdraw. They will mark Earth as conquered territory that cannot be held. They will leave you alone. Helen was not satisfied. But what about the future? What happens in 10 years? 20 years? Will the Empire come back with better technology? Will they try again? Craxthor shook his head slowly. No. The Empire does not return to worlds that defeat them. It would be admitting weakness. Once Earth is marked as a failed conquest, it will be left alone forever. That is our way. That is our honor. Jake made his decision. Then we will show them. We will demonstrate what humans can do, and maybe, just maybe, we can turn this disaster into something better. A chance for your people and ours to understand each other, to learn from each other. Craxthor's eyes brightened slightly. You offer this even though we came as invaders? Jake smiled. You are not invading now. You are lying in a medical bed, talking to doctors who want to help you. That changes things. Maybe we can find a better way forward than conquest. 3 days had passed since the aliens landed. The field where their ship sat was now surrounded by cameras and sensors. News crews from every country wanted to see what would happen next. The president had approved Jake's plan. Today, humans would show the Zelthron what life on Earth really meant. Jake stood in the morning sun with 50 soldiers behind him. They were not special forces. They were not enhanced or modified. They were regular military personnel. Some were young, fresh from training. Others were veterans with years of service. Men and women of different sizes and backgrounds. What they all had in common was simple. They were human. They were born on Earth, and Earth's gravity was as natural to them as breathing. The alien flagship floated above them. Its commander, a leader named Zixthrall, was watching through cameras and sensors. Kevin stood beside Jake, holding a communication device. The whole alien fleet was watching. Thousands of Zelthron warriors wanted to see if humans were really as capable as Craxthor claimed. Many did not believe it. Many thought there must be some trick or deception. War leader Zixthrall, Jake spoke into the communicator. His voice was clear and calm. You came to Earth ready to conquer. Your warriors are among the finest in your empire. They have taken 47 worlds. But Earth is different. Our planet is our defense. What we are about to show you is not a demonstration of military power. It is a demonstration of everyday life for humans. This is normal for us, he gestured to Kyle Murphy. Kyle was a sergeant with 10 years of military experience. He was an average soldier by human standards. Good at his job, but not exceptional. He wore full combat gear. His pack weighed about 60 pounds. His weapon and equipment added another 20 pounds. In total, he carried about 80 pounds of gear in addition to his own body weight. Kyle began to run. He ran across the field at a steady pace. Not sprinting, just jogging. He ran for 200 yards. His breathing was steady. His movements were smooth and controlled. To a human, this was basic fitness. To the Zelthron watching, it was impossible. One of their warriors could not walk 10 steps on Earth. Kyle was running with extra weight and making it look easy. Next, Kyle dropped to the ground and did push-ups. 25 of them. Each one was clean and precise. His form was perfect. Then he jumped up and did pull-ups on a bar that had been set up. 10 pull-ups. His body moved up and down with practiced ease, all of this while wearing his combat gear. All of this in Earth's crushing gravity that had defeated the strongest Zelthron warriors. Jake continued speaking to the communicator. Sergeant Murphy is a good soldier, but he is not unusual. There are millions of humans who could do what he just did. Some could do much more. Children play in this gravity. Old people walk in this gravity. We are born here. We grow here. Our bodies are built for this. Every human you see has been training for life on Earth since the day they were born. Rachel Foster stepped forward next. She was small for a soldier, 5'4" and weighing maybe 130 pounds. She picked up a pack that weighed 80 pounds. For her, this was more than half her body weight. She put the pack on her back and began to march. She walked steadily across the field and back. 1 mile, then 2 miles. Her pace never slowed. Her breathing stayed controlled. To a Zelthron warrior, that pack would have felt like it weighed hundreds of pounds. Rachel was carrying it like it was nothing special. She finished her march and set the pack down. She was not even breathing hard. She gave Jake a small nod and stepped back into formation. Just another day. Just another training exercise. Jake let the silence hang for a moment. Then he spoke again. Private Foster weighs less than 150 pounds. She just carried more than half her weight for 2 miles. And she could do it again right now if I asked. This is normal human capability. This is what Earth produces. Not because we are superior, but because we evolved here. Because our planet demanded it. More soldiers demonstrated different skills. One soldier climbed a rope using only his arms. Another carried a wounded comrade on his shoulders. 2 soldiers sparred hand to hand, their movements quick and powerful. Every action was routine by human standards. Every action would have been impossible for a Zelthron on Earth. Helen stood nearby with measuring equipment. She was recording data about every movement, every step, every breath. She wanted the Zelthron to see exactly what humans were doing, the force their muscles generated, the stress their bones handled, the oxygen their hearts pumped. All of it was normal for Earth. All of it was extraordinary by Zelthron standards. Finally, Zixthral spoke. His voice came through the communicator with a tone of disbelief. Your smallest warriors do what our greatest cannot. This is not a temporary advantage. This is a permanent barrier. We cannot fight on your world. We cannot even stand on your world. How is this possible? How did you become so strong? Helen answered this time. You are not weak, war leader. Your warriors are incredibly strong for their environment. On a low-gravity world, they would be unstoppable. But humans evolved differently. Our ancestors lived in high gravity for millions of years. Every generation, the weak ones died young. The strong ones survived and had children. Over time, our bodies became adapted. Our bones became dense. Our muscles became powerful. Our hearts became strong. Not by choice, but by necessity, she continued. Your people chose to conquer low-gravity worlds because it was easier. You avoided places like Earth because they seemed unnecessary. You already had everything you needed from the worlds you could easily reach. But that meant you never had to adapt. You never had to become stronger. Your empire exists in a comfortable zone. Earth is outside that zone. There was a long silence from the alien ship. Jake could imagine the discussions happening up there. Warriors arguing about honor and defeat. Leaders debating what to do next. Scientists trying to understand how they had misjudged Earth so badly. Finally, Zixthral spoke again. If you can do this on your world, you could conquer any of ours. Your soldiers would be giants on our planets, unstoppable. Why do you not build an empire? Jake had been expecting this question. Because conquering is not strength, war leader. It is fear. Fear that you are not safe. Fear that you do not have enough. Fear that others will take what you have. Humans have fought many wars. We have built and destroyed many empires. And we learned something important. Empire does not bring peace. It does not bring security. It only brings more war. He looked up at the ship hovering above them. We have one world. It is our home. We do not need to prove our worth by taking yours. We do not need to dominate others to feel safe. Strength is not about how many worlds you conquer. It is about knowing when conquest is unnecessary. It is about finding better ways to interact with others. Zixthral was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that would change everything. What do you want from us? What is your demand? Humans have defeated the Empire without firing a weapon. What tribute do you require? What terms do you dictate? Jake smiled slightly. No tribute, no terms, no demands. We want to talk. We want to understand why you felt the need to conquer. And maybe we can help you find a different path. The confusion in the war leader's voice was clear. You defeated us and you want nothing? This makes no sense. You should be demanding our submission. You should be claiming our resources. You should be establishing dominance. That is how power works. That is how the galaxy works. Jake shook his head. Maybe that is how your part of the galaxy works. But Earth is different. We learned that real power is not about domination. It is about cooperation. It is about finding ways to help each other survive and prosper. Kevin spoke next. War leader, we are offering you something that your empire has never experienced. We are offering friendship instead of conquest, partnership instead of submission. We are offering to help you understand a different way of existing in the galaxy, not as conquerors but as neighbors. You came to take our world. We are offering to share knowledge with yours. The silence from the ship lasted several minutes. Jake could almost feel the turmoil in the alien crew. Everything they knew about the galaxy was being challenged. Everything they believed about strength and power was being questioned. Finally, Zixthril spoke one more time. We must discuss this with our leaders. We must consider what you have shown us. We will contact you again soon. For now, we request permission to remain in orbit while we deliberate. Permission granted, Jake replied. Take all the time you need. We will be here. He ended the communication and looked at his team. The soldiers were still standing at attention, ready for whatever came next. But inside, everyone was wondering the same thing. Would the aliens accept the offer of friendship? Or would they choose destruction instead? Only time would tell. The conference room aboard the Zelthron flagship was impressive. The walls showed moving images of star systems and battle plans. Technology hummed quietly in the background. But the most remarkable thing was the gravity. The room had been adjusted to match Earth's gravity. This allowed the human delegation to feel comfortable. For the Zelthron, it was a different story. Zixthril sat in a special chair that supported his weight. His body was held in place by straps and cushions. Around him, other Zelthron leaders wore powered suits. These suits used motors and servos to help them move in the heavy gravity. Every movement made noise. Every breath took visible effort. The cost of meeting humans on equal terms was written on their strained faces. President Claire Walsh led the human group. Jake and Helen stood with her. On the other side of the table, 5 Zelthron leaders represented their empire. The room was filled with tension. This was the first real meeting between humans and aliens. Everything said here would shape the future of both species. The president began. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I know it is difficult for you to be in this gravity. I appreciate the effort. Zixthril nodded slightly. The movement was careful and controlled. It is necessary. If we are to talk, we must meet where both sides can participate. Even if it causes us discomfort. President Walsh leaned forward. Tell us about your empire. Not the military victories or the conquered worlds. Tell us why it exists. What drove your people to expand across the stars? There was silence. The Zelthron leaders looked at each other. Finally, Zixthril spoke. Our homeworld was dying. Resources were running out. Our population was growing. We faced a choice. Expand or die. The first world we took was for survival. The second was for security. By the third conquest, expansion had become our identity. Helen asked the next question. But you have 47 worlds now. You have more resources than you could use in 1,000 years. Why continue conquering? Why keep expanding? One of the other Zelthron leaders answered. This was a female, smaller than Zixthril, but with the same glowing eyes. Because stopping means admitting that our empire was built on fear. It means admitting that we became conquerors not because we were mighty, but because we were desperate. The empire cannot admit weakness. To stop conquering is to admit we were wrong to start. Jake understood that feeling. He had studied human history. Many nations had done the same thing. They started wars for survival. Then they continued wars for pride. The original reason was forgotten. Only the momentum remained. I understand that trap. Humans have fallen into it many times throughout our history. Every empire we built eventually fell. Every conquest eventually failed. We learned something important from that. Empire does not bring lasting security. It only brings more conflict. Zixthril shifted in his chair. The mechanisms groaned under the strain. You speak of lessons learned through failure. But those failures must have cost you greatly. Wars, destruction, death. The president nodded. Yes, millions died. Whole civilizations were destroyed. Cities were burned. Cultures were lost. The cost of our imperial ambitions was terrible. But we did learn, eventually. We learned that cooperation builds more than conquest, that trade creates more wealth than tribute, that voluntary alliance is stronger than forced submission. Another Zelthron leader spoke. This one was older, his purple skin darker with age. You speak of ideals, but the Empire deals in realities. Our subject worlds provide resources. Our military provides order. The galaxy is dangerous. Without the Empire's protection, many worlds would fall to chaos or be conquered by others. We are not simply taking. We are providing security. Helen challenged this. Are you providing security? Or are you simply ensuring that no other empire can do what you have done? And have you considered that your subject worlds might prefer to defend themselves? That they might choose different allies if given the freedom to choose? The old Zelthron was quiet. Then he said something surprising. We have wondered, in quiet moments, whether our empire is truly just, whether we have become the threat we claim to protect against. The female leader spoke again. There is something else, something we discovered when we began surveying your galaxy more carefully. There are sectors we avoid, worlds we do not approach. We always assumed they had superior technology, weapons we could not match, but now we wonder. Perhaps those worlds simply have high gravity. Perhaps there are dozens of species like yours, strong in their own environments, untouchable by low-gravity species like us. Jake nodded. That is possible, even probable. The galaxy is vast. There must be many different types of worlds, many different types of evolution. Your empire exists in low-gravity space. There might be other empires in high-gravity space, and maybe many more in environments you never considered. The galaxy might be far more diverse than you realized. What you thought was universal might just be local. President Walsh reached into her bag and pulled out a data tablet. She placed it on the table. This contains information about Earth's history, trade agreements between nations, cultural exchanges, scientific collaborations. Look at what we achieved when we stopped fighting each other. Look at the prosperity, the innovation, the progress. All of this came from working together instead of conquering each other. Zixthral reached for the tablet. His powered suit whirred as it helped him move his arm. He looked at the data. His eyes scanned information about trade volumes, scientific discoveries, cultural achievements. Finally, he looked up. This is impressive. But you are one species on one world. The Empire spans many species on many worlds. The complexities are greater. The differences are harder to bridge. Helen smiled slightly. Humans are not one unified group. We have thousands of cultures, hundreds of languages, different religions, different values, different governments. We have been fighting each other for our entire history. The fact that we are sitting here united enough to meet you as one species is actually remarkable. It only happened in the last few decades. And it is still fragile, still imperfect. But it works better than constant war. The old Zelthron leader spoke again. You are suggesting we dismantle an empire that has stood for 3,000 years. You are asking us to release our hold on 47 worlds, to give up control, to trust that cooperation will work better than force. This is a difficult request. President Walsh met his eyes. I'm not asking you to destroy your empire. I am asking you to transform it. Not conquerors, but partners. Not subjects, but allies. The strength you have built can still exist, but it can be used for protection instead of oppression. For exploration instead of exploitation. Jake added his thoughts. Your warriors are still warriors. Your leaders are still leaders. Your scientists are still scientists. Nothing about who you are has to change, only how you interact with others. Instead of demanding tribute, negotiate trade. Instead of forcing submission, offer alliance. Instead of conquering territory, explore unknown space. There is so much galaxy left to discover, so many mysteries to solve. Why waste your energy controlling what you already have when you could be learning what you do not? The female leader looked at her colleagues. Her voice was soft but clear. I have seen the subject worlds. I have walked their streets and spoken to their people. They obey us because they must, not because they want to. They give us resources because we demand it, not because it benefits them. We tell ourselves we are providing order, but perhaps we are only providing oppression. Perhaps the humans are right. Perhaps there is a better way. Zixthral was silent for a long time. His eyes stared at the star maps on the walls. Maps showing worlds conquered over 3,000 years. Finally he spoke. What you suggest is possible, perhaps even necessary, but it cannot happen quickly. The empire is vast. Its traditions are deep. Its culture is built around military glory. To change all of this will take time, years, maybe decades, and there will be resistance. Many will oppose this transformation. President Walsh nodded. We understand. Change is always difficult, especially change that challenges core beliefs. But you have time. Your empire is not going to collapse overnight. You can make this transformation gradually. Start with one world. Offer them a choice. True alliance instead of forced submission. See what happens. Learn from it. Then try another world, step by step, choice by choice. Build something new alongside what already exists. Helen suggested something practical. We could help. Earth has experience with this kind of transformation. We have helped nations transition from dictatorships to democracies, from isolation to cooperation, from conflict to peace. It is never easy. It is never perfect, but it is possible. We could send advisors, teachers, diplomats, people who understand both war and peace, people who can help guide the transformation. The old Zelthran considered this. You would send your people into the Empire, where they would be vulnerable? Where we could hold them hostage or worse? Jake answered immediately. Yes. Because trust has to start somewhere. Because showing faith in others encourages them to have faith in you. Because peace requires risk. We cannot ask you to change if we are not willing to be part of that change. We cannot demand trust if we do not offer it first. Zixthrill looked at each human carefully. You are either very wise or very foolish. I am not certain which. But your offer is genuine. That much is clear. Very well. 4 months had passed since the first meeting aboard the Zeltron flagship. The empty field in Colorado was no longer empty. Construction crews had built a large complex. Humans and Zeltron worked side by side, though the aliens needed special equipment to function in Earth's gravity. The building was called the Terran-Zelthron Exchange Center. It was the first place where two species from different worlds could learn from each other. Jake walked through the halls of the center. He was now officially the human ambassador to the Zelthron Cooperative. The name change had been important. The Zelthron Empire was slowly becoming the Zelthron Cooperative. It was more than just words. It represented a fundamental shift in how they saw themselves. Not conquerors, not rulers, but partners. The change was happening slowly, very slowly. 3,000 years of culture could not be transformed overnight. But it was happening. The first subject world had been given a choice. They could remain part of the Zelthron territory with full rights and representation, or they could become independent with a trade agreement. They chose to stay, but with new terms, equal partners instead of subjects. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. Jake found Kraxthor in one of the training rooms. The warrior was working with a group of human engineers. He wore an advanced exoskeleton that helped him move in Earth's gravity. It was sleek and efficient, much better than the early models. With it, Kraxthor could walk almost normally. He could work. He could function. The exoskeleton gave him freedom he had not had when he first arrived. Ambassador Morrison, Kraxthor greeted him with a gesture that humans had learned meant respect. We are studying your construction methods. The way you build in high gravity is fascinating. Your structures must withstand constant stress. Your designs account for forces we never consider. This knowledge is valuable for our colonies. We can apply these principles to make our buildings stronger and safer. Jake watched the engineers and the alien warrior examining blueprints together. Learning instead of fighting. Building instead of conquering. How does it feel, he asked. Kraxthor considered the question seriously. Strange. Very strange. I was trained as a warrior. My whole life was about conquest. Now I am learning about buildings and bridges. But it is not without value. I am learning things that will help my people. That is a different kind of victory. A quieter one, but perhaps more lasting. Lisa appeared from a nearby laboratory. She carried a data pad filled with medical information. Ambassador, I thought you should know. The first joint medical facility opens next week on Zelthros. Human doctors will work with Zelthron physicians. We are sharing knowledge about trauma care and regenerative medicine. Their ability to regrow tissue combined with our experience in high-stress injuries could save countless lives. Jake smiled. That is excellent news. Helen will be excited. She has been pushing for medical cooperation since the beginning. Lisa nodded. The interesting thing is how eager both sides are to learn. Our doctors want to understand Zelthron biology. Their doctors want to understand human resilience. Everyone benefits. Nobody loses. It is exactly what cooperation should look like. The real changes were happening across the galaxy. Subject worlds were being given more autonomy. Tribute systems were being replaced with fair trade agreements. The massive Zeltron military was being gradually reorganized. Less conquest. More exploration. Less oppression. More protection. It was messy. It was complicated. It was often frustrating, but it was progress. Kevin found Jake in the main corridor. The diplomat looked pleased. The Galactic Council has requested Earth's presence at their next summit. Word is spread about what happened here. Other high-gravity worlds want to establish contact. They have been isolated because low-gravity species could not reach them easily, and several low-gravity empires are suddenly very interested in diplomatic solutions. They do not want to make the same mistake the Zeltron made with Earth. Jake understood. Fear can be a powerful motivator, though I would prefer if they were interested in cooperation for its own merits. Kevin laughed. Give them time. You are asking species to reconsider beliefs they have held for thousands of years. The Zeltron thought they were the ultimate warriors. Then they met a world where children could outlast their champions. That kind of revelation changes everything. It takes time to process, time to accept, time to adapt. They walked to the observation deck. A large window looked out across the complex. Humans and Zeltron moved through the facility together. Some relationships were still awkward, born of necessity rather than friendship, but others had grown into genuine partnerships. Scientists collaborating on research, engineers solving problems together, medical staff learning from each other, soldiers training side by side, sharing techniques and strategies. Zixthral stood at the window as well. His exoskeleton allowed him to maintain dignity despite Earth's crushing gravity. He looked out at the scene below. Then he spoke to Jake. President Walsh asked me recently if I regretted the invasion. I told her no. Jake raised an eyebrow. No? The war leader shook his head. No, because without it we would have continued as we were, blind to our limitations, ignorant of other possibilities. You defeated us by simply existing in a way we could not match. That defeat was necessary for us to evolve. Evolution, Jake repeated. I like that word. Not surrender. Not submission, evolution, growth, change, becoming something better. Zixthral nodded. Exactly. The galaxy is larger than we imagined. More diverse. More complex. We thought we knew its rules. We thought we understood power and strength. But Earth showed us that power takes many forms. A world that seems vulnerable might be impregnable. A species that appears primitive might possess capabilities we cannot match. Rachel walked by, carrying equipment that would have required machinery for a Zeltron. She nodded at Jake and continued on her way. She had no idea that she represented something profound to the watching aliens. She was just doing her job, just living her life. But to the Zeltron, she was proof that strength came in unexpected forms. Humans have a saying, Jake told Zixthral. What does not kill you makes you stronger. Earth almost killed your warriors just by being Earth. But it made your civilization stronger by teaching you humility, by showing you that there are limits to any empire, by proving that cooperation achieves more than conquest. Zixthral considered this. Humility. Yes, that is a concept we are still learning. But it is valuable, necessary. An empire built on pride alone is fragile. One built on understanding is more resilient. The sun was setting over Colorado. The sky turned orange and red. In the field below, a mixed group of humans and Zeltron were engaged in what looked like a game. The humans were teaching the aliens about basketball. The Zeltron, even in their exoskeletons, were clearly struggling with the concept. But they were laughing. Actually laughing. Something that had apparently been rare in their military culture. The first contact protocols never covered this, Jake said with a smile. Aliens defeated by gravity, saved by compassion, transformed by cooperation. It is going to make an interesting chapter in the history books. Zixthral made a sound that might have been a laugh. History books, yes, this will be recorded, but I think it will be remembered not as the day the Empire fell. It will be remembered as the day we learned to build something better, something that lasts. Helen joined them at the window. She carried coffee for the humans and a container of Zeltron nutrition supplement for Zixthral. Thought you might want refreshments while you watch the sunset. Oh, and Craxthor asked me to tell you something exciting. The engineering team figured out how to adapt Zeltron low-gravity construction methods for Earth-normal environments. It could revolutionize space station design. We can build larger structures with less material. It is brilliant. Jake smiled at Zixthril. See, that is what cooperation looks like. Your people's expertise in low-gravity construction, combined with our people's adaptation to high gravity. Neither of us could have achieved that alone. Together we created something new. Something better. The war leader raised his nutritional supplement. It was a gesture humans had taught him. A toast to new foundations, he said. Built not on conquest but on mutual respect. On shared knowledge. On friendship to new foundations, Jake and Helen echoed. They touched their cups to his container. Below them, the mixed group continued their game. Their laughter rose into the evening air. It was not perfect. The challenges of integrating two completely different species were enormous. Cultural misunderstandings happened every day. The logistics of accommodating such different physiologies were complex and expensive. Some Zelthrons still believed in the old ways. Some humans still feared the aliens, but it was working. Slowly, gradually, imperfectly, but undeniably working. Trade agreements were being signed. Scientific papers were being published with both human and Zelthron authors. Cultural exchanges were happening. Children on both worlds were learning about each other. The foundation was being laid for something that had never existed before, true cooperation between species from different stars. The Zelthron had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. They found instead a world that humbled them, humans who helped them, and an opportunity to become something greater than they had ever been as conquerors. Earth's gravity had defeated. 1 year had passed since the Zelthron fleet first appeared in Earth's sky. Jake stood in the same Colorado field where it all began. But now the field looked completely different. The exchange center had grown. New buildings had been added. Gardens had been planted with both Earth and Zelthron vegetation. A monument stood in the center, showing a human and a Zelthron reaching toward each other. The inscription read simply, "Different worlds, shared future, today was special." The first group of Zelthron students was arriving. Young aliens who wanted to study on Earth. They would attend universities, learn human sciences, experience Earth culture. It was a risky program. The students would struggle with gravity every day. They would face challenges no human student ever considered. But they wanted to come anyway. They wanted to understand the world that had changed their civilization forever. Helen stood beside Jake watching the transport ship land. She had spent the past year helping design the student exchange program, making sure the facilities were safe, ensuring the Zelthron students would have support, teaching human students how to interact with aliens. It had been exhausting work. But seeing the ship land made it all worthwhile. "This is what change looks like," she said quietly. Young people willing to step into difficulty because they want to learn, because they want to build bridges. The ship's door opened. The first Zelthron student emerged wearing an advanced exoskeleton. This one was different from the military versions, sleeker, more comfortable, designed for daily life rather than combat. The student took careful steps down the ramp. Each movement was controlled, practiced. The young Zelthron had been training for months to prepare for Earth's gravity. But training and reality were different things. The student reached the ground and paused, then looked around. The first Zelthron to set foot on Earth had collapsed immediately. This student stood, struggled, but stood. It was a powerful moment. A year ago, standing on Earth had been impossible for their species. Now, with technology and determination, it was difficult but achievable. Progress measured in steps, literally. More students emerged. 12 in total. 6 males and 6 females by Zelthron standards. They gathered at the bottom of the ramp, supporting each other. Looking nervous, excited, scared. Jake recognized those emotions. He had felt them himself on his first day in the military. First days were always hard. First days in a completely alien environment with crushing gravity were probably terrifying. Human students waited nearby, volunteers who had agreed to be guides and friends. They approached slowly, carefully. One human student extended her hand to a Zelthron student. The alien looked at the hand, remembered the lessons about human customs, extended one of their 4 hands in return. The handshake was awkward. Different hand sizes, different joint structures, but the meaning was clear. Welcome. Friend. Partner. Kraxthor arrived to greet the students. He was now officially a cultural liaison. His job was to help Zelthron understand humans and help humans understand Zelthron. He spoke to the students in their own language. The translator devices made his words available to the watching humans. You are brave to come here. This world will test you every day. You will struggle. You will hurt. You will want to go home. But you will also learn. You will grow. You will become stronger in ways that have nothing to do with muscles or bones. Welcome to Earth. Lisa was there with her medical team, ready to help if anyone had problems. The first few days would be the hardest. The students' bodies would need time to adjust to the constant strain. They would need careful monitoring, special nutrition, rest, support, but Lisa was confident. The Zelthron students had been selected carefully. They were young and healthy. Their bodies could adapt better than the older warriors who first tried to conquer Earth. Meanwhile, on Zelthros, human students were arriving for their own exchange program. They would experience low gravity, learn Zelthron sciences, study alien culture. It was easier for humans on Zelthros than Zelthron on Earth. Low gravity was fun for humans, almost like flying. But there were other challenges. Different air composition, strange food, unfamiliar social rules. Exchange worked both ways. Both species had to step outside their comfort zones. Kevin had news from the diplomatic front. 5 more low-gravity species had requested meetings with Earth. They wanted to establish relationships, not through conquest. Through communication, the Zelthron transformation was being watched across the galaxy. Other empires were nervous. If the mighty Zelthron could be defeated by a planet's gravity and then transformed through cooperation, what did that mean for everyone else? The old rules were changing. New possibilities were emerging. Jake also heard news from the high-gravity worlds. 3 had made contact with Earth. They had been isolated for thousands of years, cut off from galactic civilization because most species could not reach them. Now they were learning they were not alone. There were other high-gravity worlds. Other species adapted to heavy planets. They were talking about forming their own federation. Not for conquest, for mutual support and trade. The galaxy was reorganizing itself, not around empires and territories, but around environments and capabilities. Low-gravity species cooperating with each other, high-gravity species doing the same, and increasingly cooperation between the two groups, trade, knowledge exchange, cultural sharing. It was messy and complicated, full of misunderstandings and mistakes, but it was happening. Zixthrol had returned to Earth for the student arrival ceremony. He was one of the strongest advocates for the transformation of Zelthron society. Some called him a traitor. Others called him a visionary. He ignored both labels and focused on the work. Today he watched the students with something like pride. I commanded warriors who conquered worlds, he said to Jake. But these students are braver than any warrior I knew. They choose difficulty. They embrace challenge. Not for glory, not for conquest, for understanding. That takes a different kind of courage. Jake nodded. The first Zelthron who came here were warriors. Strong, trained, elite. But they came expecting victory. Your students come expecting struggle. That is a more honest approach. More humble, and probably more likely to succeed. Zixthrol agreed. Humility is what the Empire lacked. We thought our strength made us invincible. We learned otherwise. Now we teach our young to respect limitations, to ask for help, to cooperate. These are harder lessons than combat, but more valuable. The students were being led to their dormitory. Special facilities had been built with Zelthron needs in mind. Wider doors, stronger furniture, medical equipment nearby. Human students walked with them. Conversations were starting. Awkward at first, but genuine. Questions about each other's worlds. Stories about families. Jokes that did not translate well but made people laugh anyway. The universal language of young people trying to connect. Helen showed Jake a report. It contained data from all 47 former subject worlds. 32 had chosen to remain part of the Zelthron Cooperative with new terms. 15 had chosen independence but maintained trade agreements. None had chosen complete separation. The Empire had not collapsed. It had transformed slowly, painfully, but genuinely. Military spending was down. Education spending was up. Conquest fleets were being converted to exploration vessels. It was working. There were still problems. Some Zelthron military leaders refused to accept the changes. They talked about restoring the old empire, about showing strength through force. But they were becoming fewer. The younger generation of Zelthron had seen the benefits of cooperation. They had seen their economy grow, their technology advance, their culture enrich. They did not want to return to constant warfare. They wanted the new path. Jake thought about everything that had happened. 1 year ago, the world had braced for invasion. Humanity had prepared for war. The military had been on highest alert. People had been terrified. And then the aliens had simply fallen down, defeated by gravity. It should have been a comedy. Invaders who could not even stand up. But it had become something else. An opportunity. A chance to try something new. President Walsh arrived for the ceremony. She wanted to give a speech welcoming the students. Jake stood beside her as she addressed both humans and Zelthran. A year ago, we faced what we thought was our greatest challenge. Invasion from the stars. We prepared for the worst, but we got something unexpected. We got a chance to show that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our technology. It is our willingness to help. Our capacity to see potential friends instead of permanent enemies. Our courage to offer cooperation even to those who came in conquest, she continued. Today we welcome Zelthron students to Earth. Young people who chose challenge over comfort, who chose understanding over ignorance, who chose to build bridges instead of walls. This is what the future looks like. Not perfect, not easy, but hopeful. These students represent something new. A generation that will grow up knowing both worlds, understanding both cultures, building connections that their parents never imagined possible. The ceremony ended. The students went to their dormitories to rest. The humans dispersed to their own homes and duties. Jake walked back through the complex one more time. He saw Kraxthor teaching a human engineer about Zelthron metallurgy. He saw Lisa discussing biology with a Zelthron doctor. He saw Kevin negotiating the terms for a